Hello, welcome to the Knitting with Cat Hair podcast. My name is Nikki. I'm also known as Knitting with Cat Hair on Instagram and Cat Hair Knitting on Ravelry. I'm coming to you from Sudbury, Ontario, Canada, which lies atop the traditional lands of the Tegamiching and Anishinaabe people, where I live with my partner, our 2 daughters, and our 5 cats. Hence the name of the podcast, as I'm always finding cat hair in my knitting. So big warm welcome to all new viewers and a big welcome back to all returning viewers. I hope that the last 3 weeks have treated you well and that you've been getting lots of making done. I'm just gonna jump right into things today. So I'll start with a few admin things, or one admin thing up front. So I am running a Marie Wallin make along over on Instagram. You can follow along with the hashtag another year of MWMAL. And if you want to participate, you can use that hashtag. However, I will only be drawing prizes from the finished objects tag, which is another year of MWMAL-FO. Whips are welcome. You can literally finish anything as long as it's finished before August 1st of this year. So yeah, anything, accessories, blankets, sweaters, hats, anything that, as long as it involves a pattern by Marie Wallin. And we've already had so many beautiful finished objects and so many gorgeous works in progress as well. And yeah, I highly encourage you to participate. So I also have a Slack group, which is kind of in lieu of a Ravelry knit group. And anyone is welcome to join. It's a wonderfully friendly little group, and we do weekly video chats via Zoom. You don't have to participate, but you're more than welcome to. Where we just share what we're working on and talk things knitting and not. All crafts are welcome. Yeah, so I highly encourage you to join, and I always put the link down below in the description, and you can also find it over on my Instagram and my link tree. So before I get started, I just want to say that I'm not sponsored by anyone. I only talk about what I love on this podcast. And anything that I mention regarding patterns or makers or podcasts, etc., will all be linked down below in the description. Okay, so let's jump into the knitting chat. I'm going to start with what I'm wearing, which happens to be my first and only finished object for today. So I am wearing my newly finished Brightfeather, which is a pattern by Jennifer Steingass. I knitted up in Knitted In. I held 2 strands together. It's 2 colors. There's like a very pale pink. Maybe it's best if I show my sleeve. So there's a very, very pale pink, and then called Villigot, I think. And then this really pretty kind of goldy brown called Manning. And I just love it. I'll try and stand up and see if I can give you a little look. So this is what it looks like. Yeah, I have a little bit of ribbing here. I think I did an inch and a half or so of ribbing. I didn't make too many modifications. Actually, I guess I made a few. So I didn't do I think there might be some waist shaping. I didn't do that on this sweater this time. And I didn't do the short rows at the back, at the bottom, which is, I guess, intended to kind of make the length at the back a little longer. I didn't do that part, so it's the same length all the way around. I shortened my yoke because it was my row gauge was slightly off. Actually, it was off by quite a bit. So I was ending up with a really long, really deep yoke. So I just took out just a few rounds kind of in the middle here of the colorwork pattern. It worked out fine. I don't think you can really tell at all. Actually, it's really pretty. I love this. And with the sleeves, they were turning out too large, so I just took out 20 stitches and decreased quicker. So my sleeves are a bit tighter, I guess, but they fit perfectly. And I really like the length. It kind of comes down to like here when my arms are straight. The cuff is just so pretty. It's my favorite part, my favorite detail on this sweater. So I will tell you a few of the details. You can also find everything over on Ravelry on my project page. I do list everything. Probably more details than you'll find in the podcast. So I used a US 3, which is a 3.25 millimeter needle, to do the rolled cuffs and neckline. And I used a US 4, which is a 3.5 millimeter for all of the non-color work, so the body. And then for the color work, I used a US 6, which is a 4 millimeter. So I have to go up 2 sizes of needles in order to maintain my gauge when I'm doing color work. So that's that. I think I already talked about everything else other than the size. So I made the size G, which is a 52-inch, I think, finished bust circumference, but because my gauge was actually tighter, it should have been more like a 49. I think it fits very nicely. I have a 45-inch bust for reference, and I definitely have some ease, but it's not like I'm not swimming in it, I don't think. So yeah, it's super comfy, and because it's made out of unspun yarn, it's really lightweight and yet very warm. So I'm actually quite warm right now. It is very cold outside here. We are at like, I think it's like minus 25 degrees with the wind chill. And it's super sunny. It seems to be sunny every single time that I try and podcast, which makes things really difficult because, yeah, trying to get the right lighting in here is just, it's a struggle. But anyways, I'm grateful for the sun. It's nice to see. We still have a ton of snow. We got, I don't know how many inches last night. Anyways, winter's not quitting. It just keeps on going here. I think we've had the most snow in a really long time for winter. So anyways, I'm glad to have this to be able to wear because it's nice and warm. Okay, so now this is my only finished object, as I mentioned. So now I'm going to move into works in progress, and I'll start with the ones that I've shown before because I do have some new cast-ons. I may have cast on 3 new things. Don't judge me. I told everyone that my monogamous ways were not going to last for very long. I embraced them, but I think they're over now. Okay, so I will start with an update on my Daffodil. So Daffodil is a pattern by Marie Wallin. I am knitting it up out of the Springtime Collection, her Springtime Collection book. However, you can buy the pattern individually, I believe on Ravelry or through her website. I can't remember, but it's definitely available individually. I'll pop in a picture so you can see what the finished sweater looks like. And I've made quite a bit of progress. I'll just for new viewers, I have already finished the back piece. So it's knit in pieces and then seamed afterwards, and I'm following the directions. So I've already finished my back panel. Just here. So it's a series of, hopefully I can show you, series of lace and cables. I'm sorry, the lighting is not good here. Let me try this. Try folding it. See if that shows up better. There, a little better. So yeah, there's some lace and cables, and it's a really interesting and fun knit. It's not, for me, it's not memorizable. There's no way I can memorize this, so I have to keep really close attention to which row I'm on. But yeah, I find it very enjoyable. So that's the finished back piece. I mentioned a few episodes ago that I'm knitting this out of a cone of whole scarn super soft in the colorway Sweet Pea, which is this really, really pretty purpley pink color. Never shows up as pretty as it is in person. So there's like kind of like speckles, or it's like a heathered yarn, so there's different colors in it. There's purples and yellows, and there's even these little splashes of red every once in a while, which I think is so cute. So anyways, I'm knitting it up out of whole scarn super soft, and when I washed the back piece, it shrunk on me a lot actually. It's shrunk. I can't remember the measurements, but anyways, it did shrink. So it's turning out a lot shorter than I anticipated. And I was debating whether I should rip back all of the shaping and then just, you know, add a few inches or whatever I need to add to it to make it the correct length. And then somebody, it's so simple, but somebody in the comments mentioned, why don't you just make it as is and just keep it as like a shorter sweater that you can just throw on top of like high-waisted jeans or over top of like a linen dress or something like that. And I think that's what I might do. So instead of ripping back, because I looked at the length, it's so hard to tell when you're doing it in panels. I looked at the length across, like along my body, and it's not cropped. It's just shorter than it was intended to be. So I think what I might do is just make it as is and just keep it as a shorter length. And I think that will work out fine. So now my debate is if I'm going to make it shorter and kind of more summery, I guess, should I do short sleeves? That is my debate. But anyways, so I have a bit of time to think about it. So this is the front piece. And that little progress keeper shows you where I was last time. And so I've done quite a few inches. I've been working on this quite a bit. I try and do a little bit on my lunch hour. I'm still working from home, so every lunch hour I will sit and listen to an audiobook and knit on this. And it's bringing me so much joy. It's such a pleasurable knit, but you have to pay attention to it. Also, I just want to say, like I've said this before, but there's so many people who keep saying, you know, it looks so complicated. It's really not complicated. If you've never tried lace before, it's literally just a series of yarn overs and knit two togethers. In this case, there's a few knit three togethers, and some knits, purls, knit two togethers, knit three togethers, yarn overs. I think that's it. Pretty much. So it's really not that complicated. What is complicated is just keeping track of where you are. And you'll see I use these stitch markers to keep track of where I'm at in my, like what section I'm at in my pattern. I don't know if you can see. I just use these little light bulb stitch markers. You could literally mark out each section. I do sections in the pattern. So if you look at the pattern, there's like breaks between the sections on the page, and I use those to mark where I'm at. And it seems to work very well. Okay, so I am making the size, and this one, I'm making the size extra large to accommodate my 45 inch bust. I think the extra large accommodates a 44 to 46 inch bust. And my gauge is loose, even though I'm knitting this on US 2.75 millimeter needles. My gauge is still loose, so it's turning out larger, like wider, which is okay. It's not going to be excessively wide, but yeah. So that I think is it for the daffodil. And I'm knitting this up as part of our make along, of course, our Marie Wallin make along. And I hope to have it done by August 1st. I think I'm on good track. I have another Marie Wallin project on my needles, which I won't show today because I didn't do any more work on it. It's a color work sweater, and I don't know that I'll have that one done by August 1st, but that's okay. One is good. Okay, so I'm trying to think, is there anything else that you have seen before that I worked on? No, I think we're into new cast-ons now. New cast-ons / whips. Okay, I'll go in order of cast on. So I think this one was first. So I finished my Freddie Beach socks that I showed in the last podcast episode, and then I was really craving a pair of socks to be on the needles, and I needed something simple because I knew that I was going to start going to an in-person knit night for the first time, which I'm so excited about. And I needed something just vanilla-y, really easy to work on. So I cast on a pair of socks for my partner, John, whose favorite color is green. And I'm knitting these. Okay, well, I was knitting them two at a time. I have taken them apart to work on the heels, but so this is what I have on one sock. Oh, there. And the other one is at the heel as well. So I'm using 2 yarns for this. The self-patterning crazy crazy yarn is it's a Drops Fable This is what it looks like in the ball. I didn't realize it was going to be so patterned. I actually thought it was stripes, but I don't know, this is my first time using crazy yarn like this that just does its own patterning. It's interesting. I like to see what's coming next. And he won't mind. He's super, super knit worthy. He'll wear anything. And then the other yarn that I'm using for the heels, because I think the Drops Fable balls are only 50 grams. They're small. And these are men's socks, so they're going to be larger than normal. So I need to have more yarn. So I wasn't sure if I'd run out, especially since I'm knitting top down, or cuff down. So I am using a different yarn for the heels. Oh my gosh, sunlight. Here you can see there's some pink, and I don't know if you can tell, but there's like orange and pink speckles in the green. He won't care. This is what it looks like in the ball. And this is I think it's a you should cheetah. I can't pronounce the word. It'll be on the screen. A sock yarn. So I think it's like a 75-25, I want to say. Merino and then nylon. With that I had in my stash. So yay, using up stash. And yeah, so that's it. So the socks are not going to be matchy-matchy. The patterns are actually, because I'm using each end of the ball, so one in the middle and then one on the outside to knit these. And so they're going to kind of be reversed patterning, but I don't know. He doesn't care if they're matchy and I don't care either. They have similar patternings, obviously. They'll have the same patternings, just reversed. It's fine. So yeah, that's my vanilla sock progress. Well, no, I don't want to make any commitments. I might have it done for next time. We'll see. We'll see if I cast on a bunch of other things. Okay. And I'm using Magic Loop 2 at a time, with the exception of the heels, and US Wens 2.25 millimeter needles. Okay, next cast on. I talked about this in my last episode. I think, did I show the yarn? I might have showed the yarn when I was talking about future plans. Oh yes, so I had my job interview, and I rewarded myself with a cast on afterwards for all my hard work. And thank you, first off, thank you so much to everyone who reached out to see how my interview went, and those who wished me luck. Thank you very much. We'll see what happens. I should find out next week if I got the job or not. And either way, there will be a new cast on. So if I do get the job, I will be doing a celebratory cast on. And if I don't, I'll do a pity cast on. I'll talk about my next cast on in a bit. Okay, so, I'm in the middle of a row, of course, but I went ahead and cast on a Nightshift. This is a shawl by Andrea Mowry. And I am altering the pattern to just include 2 colors. So the original design calls for, I think, 6 different skeins of Spincycle yarn. And I am just using 2 colors. So I'm keeping the background consistent. So this beigey brown in the background. And then the foreground is darker browns and grays. And these are Noro Curion, I think it's called. Yes. Here's the tag. Noro. And then the name is Curion. And I'm using, like I said, 2 different colors, number 211 and can't remember the other color, but I might have written it in my journal. Just quickly check. Yes, 149. So 211's the background color, the kind of beigey cream. And yeah, I'm really enjoying it. So this is the background color. You can see that it has some brown in it too, some light brown, and there's some light grays. I just love how the colors change, and it looks, I don't know, it looks so cool. I can't wait to see which color combination's coming up next. And this is my foreground color, so the mosaic stitches grays and browns. Yeah, I'm very much enjoying it. It's such a fun knit, and I have the pattern memorized now because I'm just using the 2 colors. I'm not switching. There's like different sections in there where you're supposed to switch colors and do things and whatever, and I'm not doing that. So it's super easy for me. I just keep on going until I make it as big as I want. And it has this lovely I-cord edging along both sides. It's on this side too, but it curls. And yeah, it's really fun knit. And it's perfect because it'll match anything really. It's so neutral. So that's what I wanted. So I mentioned last time I'd started making one of these in a lot brighter colors of Noro Silk Garden, I think it was. Cats are playing. And yeah, it was turning out too bright for my liking, and I ended up gifting it to my best friend because she loves all the bright colors and she wears it all the time, she said. So now I'm making myself one. Yeah, it's a really fun knit. It looks complicated, but it's mosaic knitting, which if you don't know what mosaic knitting is, it's basically just when you're knitting across with one color, you slip the stitches of the other color and then you come back and knit them on the next row kind of thing. It's not complicated at all. Yeah, highly recommend giving it a go. So that is a very fun knit. I haven't been showing any of my project bags, but this one's housed in my project bag that I made myself. It's got peacocks and foxes and hares on it. And it's turquoise, which I love. And I don't know if it'll show up. I'm gonna try. I always try this and it never really shows up very well, but oh no. There's like this golden bee fabric on the inside. I don't know if you can see. Anyways, it's really pretty. My mom helped me make it totally because I am not a sewist. Okay, so one more new cast on. And this is also for my partner. I mentioned that I was he had wanted another sweater. And he's been wearing his other one so much that I figured, yes, he's definitely gonna wear it. So as long as I make it to fit. So I had mentioned I was gonna cast on the Cotswold Henley by Meghan Babin. I'll pop in a picture of what the finished sweater looks like. So I went ahead and did a gauge swatch. And this is it. Oh, there, you can see the texture. So there's 2 textures in the sweater. There's they call it a Henley rib, and then there's a basket weave, or garter basket weave. This is the garter basket weave. Yeah, it's really cool. And I managed to get gauge with the recommended needle size on the first try. So yay for me. And I washed and blocked it, and I measured it afterwards, and I knit a sizable swatch. So trying to do things the right way. And so for the size, I took a sweater or a hoodie that my partner wears a lot, and I just measured it. So like I measured the width of it and the length from the bottom to the armhole, and I'm gonna actually extend it because I find the hoodie's just a smidgen short on him, so I'm gonna extend that by an inch. But if you're ever struggling to get a nice fit, one of the things that's pretty easy to do is take something that you love the fit of and just measure it and use those measurements to try and, you know, replicate that when you're making your garment. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to making this sweater for him. I'm using Cascade 220 Heathers. The color's not gonna show up as pretty. It just looks like a green, but it's actually got, I don't know, it reminds me of like dark green moss. It's got like yellowy greens in it and then really dark greens as well. It's just really pretty, really, really pretty. and it's soft. That was the important thing, because although my partner is very knit-worthy, I've not worked him up to itchy, I use the quotations, yarns yet. There's a cat sitting behind me. They love this blanket. Anyways, yes, so I just cast on the actual sweater 2 days ago, I think it was. So I've only started the ribbing. Well, actually, no, I've started the patterning now. So I've completed the ribbing and I've started some of the patterning. You won't be able to see it though, because it's just a few rows or rounds. And all of these markers are where you change sections or you need to do something. Like, I think there's some faux seams at the sides that are just made with purl stitches in a column. So you have to mark those out. And what else was I going to say? I didn't follow the instructions completely. So it is knit in the round, bottom up until the sleeve separation. And then I think you knit it back and forth flat and then probably join at the shoulders. That's my guess. I didn't read the whole thing. I'm supposed to be reading through the pattern entirely before starting, but I didn't do that. Anyways, I figure it'll be okay. But it asks you to do a tubular cast on, and everything is tubular bound off, and I just don't want to do it. Just not a fan of it. Like, I know it looks, finished. Maybe more professionally finished, but I just don't feel like struggling with it. I just don't. So I don't, whatever. So I just did a long tail cast on, made sure it was stretchy. It's nice and stretchy. And yeah, so that's so far the only modification I've made to it. And there's no rush to get this done. This will not be done in time for him to wear this winter anyways. It'll probably happen for the fall. But yeah. So that is my next cast on, or my last cast on. So that's 3 new cast ons. And what was I going to say? Oh yes, I used US 5. I never remember the millimeters. I'm sorry, I know, and I'm Canadian, but I learned the US numbers. Okay, so I used a US 5 3.75 millimeter for the ribbing, and then I went up to a US 7 4.5 millimeter for the rest of the body. And that is those are the called for needles. Like I said, I got gauged, so awesome. Yay. And that is it for all of the actual knitting. However, I did go ahead, as I mentioned in my last episode, I wanted to try out spinning. And so I promptly went ahead and ordered, probably overkill, I ordered 3 spindles, 3 drop spindles, 2 little light ones to do the spinning on, and then 1 kind of heavier one to be able to use to ply the yarns together. I also went ahead and purchased this book called Respect the Spindle, which came highly recommended by a few people actually, but I think it was mainly I saw it on the Soulful Spinner podcast with Lisa. FYI, if you are contemplating giving spinning a go, I highly recommend you check out her beginner, drop spindling from beginning to end or something like that tutorial. I will link it down below. It's what I used to get started. It's very helpful, as is Jillian Eve, who is another spinner. And both of those podcasts were very highly recommended to me by other spinners. So yeah, I'm just passing on that information, but I found them both very, very useful, as with this book. So what I really loved about this book, at the very beginning, called Why the Spindle, the author talks about the history of, like some history of spinning and her own experience when she grew up in the Andes spinning, where all the little kids learn right from an early age. And She also talks about some of the benefits over using a spinning wheel, which I always just thought it was a natural progression from spindle to wheel, but it's not necessarily the case at all, because they do both offer pros and cons. One of the main pros of spinning with a spindle is the portability of it. You can just pick it up and do it whenever, and you can bring it with you. She was talking about, the author Abby Franquemont was talking about in the Andes where the little girls are running around with their spindles, and they're literally running through fields playing with, you know, and spinning yarn while they're doing it. Like it's pretty crazy. It's pretty cool, actually. So the spindle's been around for a really long time, and yeah, it's such a simple thing. So I gave it a go. I will say that I'm not how do you call that? Continuous spinning, I guess is the word, where you're just constantly spinning and walking around or standing up with it. I do the park and draft. It just came naturally to me. And maybe I have to work up to actual continuous spinning, but for now I'm doing park and draft, and it's been very enjoyable. And I have made, okay, so firstly, I purchased with my spindles, I'll show you my spindles. Hold on. So I purchased this smaller drop spindle, Ashford spindle 70 millimeters. And then I purchased the larger one, which is a 90 millimeter. And it's also an Ashford. And so I have another one of these, but I spin on this little one, like I said. And then once I have two, the theory is, once I have two of these filled up with thin enough yarn, I'm going to ply them together on this. So 2 singles to make like a 2-ply yarn. So those are my spindles. And I bought 200 grams of Corriedale. Corriedale was recommended to me as a good beginner fiber to start spinning with. So you can see here, I paid $12 Canadian for this. This is 100 grams in here. And then I have another 100 grams of like a rust dyed color. This is a natural color. This is natural medium gray Corriedale. And it's so lovely and sheepy. I love it. So yeah, I've made my first attempts. So what I'm doing is I'm just literally practicing. I'm trying to get thinner and thinner and thinner, so to the point where I can get to a lace weight single, and then that way I can apply 2 lace weight singles together to make a fingering weight. But so my first, this is my first spin. Super uneven and very bulky. So at first I thought it was Aran weight, but no, after I washed and skeined it, it really is not. But yeah, I don't know if I'll ever use this. I might just keep it as a kind of a keepsake, you know, from my first attempts at spinning, where I started from. And then I went ahead and did a second one up. I have not washed this one yet. And now we're getting a little thinner. It's still, look at that, totally overspun in some sections and totally underspun in other sections, like there. But it's all learning. It's all, I didn't expect to be perfect at this. You cannot go into things thinking you're gonna be perfect. And if you are, that's great. But I'm not that type of person. So that was my second one. And now I'm currently spinning up a third try. And this time I'm getting even thinner and a lot more consistent. It's not perfect by any means, but it's definitely thinner. So for comparison, I show you the thickness of this one. to this one. So I'm still not at lace weight, but that's okay. I feel like this is more like maybe a fingering to sport weight, or maybe DK. I don't know. I have to figure out how I think there's like a wraps per inch type thing that you do to figure out what the thickness of your yarn is. And again, this is just a single, so it's not been plied with anything. So they're all just singles. But yeah, it's been really fun, really fun. And I was advised to try and spin every single day, even if it's just for like 15 minutes. And with the spindle, you can totally do that. You just pick it up and go. I have never used a wheel, so I don't know the process, but it seems like a wheel might be, especially for me, I think it would be quite complicated because we have such a tiny house and a tiny living room that it would be like a big deal to set up and get going. So it's just not as practical for me. But and I don't think, like, this is, when did I start this? Saturday. Less than a week. And I've already made, okay, they're not great, but like the point is that I've made over 50, I don't know how much this weighs, but let's say like 60 grams I've used up of my 100 already in a week. So like if I were to be able to get good at it and I want to spin 100 grams for a pair of socks, that's not unreasonable. Yeah. So I'm really enjoying it. And if you haven't tried it before, I so very much highly recommend doing it. Of course, I think you have to be in the right headspace. I think you have to have patience and be patient with yourself. And again, like, understand that you're not going to probably get it right away. You're not going to be like this pro spinner right away. And like I said, I'm still just doing the park and draft. I read in that Respect the Spindle book that oftentimes, you know, people will just move from parking and drafting to actual continuous spinning without even realizing it's happening. So I think it'll happen at some point. It's just not right now. Maybe I can show you what I mean by parking and drafting. So I spin my spindle. I'm spinning clockwise, which is, I think, is that woolen? No, worsted spun, I think. I have to learn all these things. But anyways, I spin clockwise. So spin it, and I'm pinching up here. And then when it slows down, I grab it and stop it. And I'm still pinching. So I've built up all of this twist from this length all the way to where my fingers are pinched. And now, let's see if I can park it. You can park it under your arm. I park it between my legs, but for this example, I'll do that. And then I take my other hand and I continue pinching where I was. And then you just slowly let the twist go along the thread. And it turns it into yarn. This wasn't a great example because there's no fiber on here. It's actually already been spun. But that's basically what park and draft is. So instead of those people who just, you know, stand up and spin and keep like doing this and this and this, I can't do that. So I have to park it and then let the twist out. So it's slower going. However, I am fine with it. Fine with it. And it's like literally the very first time I tried this. I don't know, either, you know, you see videos and it's not the same as doing it in person, because seeing the yarn, the single, like basically form before your eyes is amazing. It's so cool. It's like I took this and made yarn. Like, it's, anyways, you have to experience it for yourself. And I highly recommend it. And if you do, or if you have tried it, let me know down below. Have you tried spinning with a spindle? And do you still spin with a spindle, or have you chosen to move on to using a wheel, and why? I'd love to hear all about it. I'm not even, initially I was looking at wheels right away, and after reading Respect the Spindle, or at least part of it, I've decided, no, I'm just gonna stop and embrace the spindle experience for what it is. And and take it from there. And this is a very affordable way too. Spinning wheels are very expensive. So yeah, that's what I've been up to. And the whole goal was to be able to spin some sock yarn so that I could knit a pair of socks to participate in Carrie of My Wool Mittens podcast. She's doing a spin along. I forget the name of it. I'll put the hashtag here. But yeah, she's doing a spin along essentially and knit along combined. So yeah, that was my goal. So we'll see. We'll see if I get there. Still got a little ways to go, but I'm enjoying it very much. And I guess that is it for all of the crafty talk today. I'm just looking around to see if I had anything else. I don't think so. So if you were only here for the crafty talk, thank you so much. And if you did enjoy this video, please do give it a like and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of my future episodes. And if you're going to stick around for life stuff, thank you for sticking around. I'm trying to think what we did over the last 3 weeks. So my daughter had her 13th birthday party. I had mentioned this. We were going to go skating and it turned out wonderfully. She had 6 girlfriends come over and we had cake and she opened presents and we went skating. So we walked down, there's a skating rink just down the street from us. So we just walked down to it, and unbeknownst to me, they were holding some special like skate night thing where it reminds me of like a roller skating rink where they have like lights flashing and the music is blaring and it's like they're giving away prizes and there's like an announcer over these loudspeakers and stuff like that. Anyways, really, really fun. The girls had so much fun, and I think every single one of them won something. They won tickets to see our local hockey team play. One of the girls won a hoodie, which was awesome. Yeah, it was really fun. I had fun. I didn't go skating. I just helped all of them tie up their skates. I just stood around in the cold. I was all bundled up and just watched them have fun. And yeah, it was really great. And my daughter said this was by far her best birthday yet. So that's great. What else did we do in the last 3 weeks? I'm trying to remember. We had, it's not like good news, but we had a flood in our basement. A little flood. It was manageable, but it was unexpected. We've been having some strange weather where it kind of warms up significantly all of a sudden, and then it goes like cold, like super cold again. And so what happens is the ground here is still frozen, so the water has nowhere to go when it melts. It can't absorb into the ground, so it literally gets pushed into whatever. And in this case, it was our basement. That doesn't usually happen, but yeah, so that happened. That was a lot of effort to clean all that up. Luckily, we don't have a finished basement, so it's not the end of the world, but still a pain. What else? Oh, I mentioned my interview, and like I said, I'm going to be casting something on regardless as soon as I find out what happened. And the thing that I'm going to be casting on is the Sunday cardigan by Petite Knit. I have never knit a Petite Knit pattern before. I've heard good things about it. So yeah, I already had the yarn purchased, and the pattern itself was gifted to me as I won a giveaway over on the A Million Style podcast. So yeah, I'm very much excited to cast that on. And what else? Oh, knit night. So I mentioned knit nights are happening in person for the first time ever. I'm so excited about it. And it's literally like, it's not even through me. I was trying to arrange a knit night, I think back in the fall of last year. I think it was like in September or something like that. And there just wasn't enough interest in it. Like no one was really like super committed. It was just myself and another person. And so I didn't really pursue like seeking a venue and stuff like that. And then I had someone reach out to me after my last podcast, and she was asking if there was a knit night in Sudbury. And I said, Not that I'm aware of, but you know, I've been trying to get something started and it just didn't happen. And so she's kind of taken the reins and has gotten this huge group together. And now there's going to be, it sounds like there's at least 10 of us who are going to be getting together for a knit night, and we'll be going every second Tuesday. But anyways, yeah, I'm super excited about it. I can't wait to see what everyone's working on and meet all these new knitting friends and chat knitting with people in real life, in person. Yeah, really looking forward to it. So I can't thank the person enough for taking this on and actually making it happen. So that's my excitement. And other than that, yeah, not much planned. We have a long weekend here. I don't know if it's a Canadian thing, just a Canadian thing, but we have family day coming up on Monday. So I'm off on Monday, which is nice. And the kids are off. So I don't know, we'll probably try and get out, maybe go skating. I think that's it. So I'm going to leave it there. And I hope that you have the most wonderful next 3 weeks filled with amazing weather and lots of making time. Happy making. Bye.